Not up, I'm sorry.
Mute. Can you sign up? We have been waiting for you. Thank you. This is the Spotlight, live from Washington, D.C. on Media to Africa. My name is Tabinyang Echu. As the 2025 presidential elections approaches, it remains a question as to whose political reforms appeals to the public and who has the potential to shape Cameroon's future. And today we will be looking at the candidacy of Barrister Akere, the candidate of the Universe Party, and its chances. The Muna family, I think, is a very renowned and popular name in Cameroon, with its rich legacy of service and achievement, has significantly contributed to various fields in Cameroon and beyond. Born on August 18, 1952, Barrister Akere Muna is part of this distinguished family. His father, Solomon Tande Muna, was a prominent political leader, serving as Vice President of the Federal Republic of Cameroon, Prime Minister of West Cameroon, and the President of the National Assembly in Cameroon. Barrister Muna is an international legal consultant, anti-corruption and governance barrister at law at Lincoln's Inn in London, and the managing partner of Muna and Associates in Cameroon. He is a goodwill ambassador of the African Legal Support Facility, appointed by the same facility governance board for a 3-year unpaid term. He helps to establish economic justice, promote fairness in international contracts, and equip African governments with the legal skills required in complex negotiating environments. He actively promotes the ALSF and helps in mobilizing resources to make its services accessible to its member countries. Barrister Muna holds a diploma in maritime law from the International Ocean Development Center of Canada, the Mohammed V University in Rabat in 1990. Has a postgraduate diploma awarded by the Honorable Society of Lincoln's Inn in London, giving access to the legal profession in 1978. And he holds a BSc in International Studies, American University, Washington, D.C. School of International Services since 1975. Over the years, Barrister Akere's 5-decade-long career, he has headed several missions of the African Union and worked as Vice President of Transparency International, a civil society organization that really campaigns and fights against corruption. Today, our panelists include Dr. Mimi Kwepo, who is right here in the studio with us. She's a professor at Thomas Edison State University, the chairperson of the School of Management Advisory Board. She's a women empowerment advocate, a human resource executive, and an author of 3 books and counting. Welcome, Dr. Mimi.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And we also have here in the studio Mr. Kenneth Ndeye, who is the permanent consultant to this program. Welcome, Kenneth.
Thank you. Thank you, Bredo.
And remotely, we have Dr. Patrick Ayok from the UK, who is a development and leadership expert. Welcome, Dr. Ayok.
It's a pleasure.
And from Chicago, we have Jonas Potani. He's a former mayor of Mbengui, educator, and currently a security professional. He's not here with us. He'll be definitely joining us. And then we have Hubert, who is a real estate business management professional and a political analyst in Washington, D.C. Welcome, Hubert.
Thank you, Brother Tavernier.
It's another day, and as we all agree, it is very imperative that we have these conversations at this very critical time in the future of Cameroon. Cameroon is at an inflection point, given the many crises and the challenges across the country. Today we will be focusing on Bâtonnier Akere and his chances in the upcoming presidential elections in Cameroon. Some have clamored for an Anglophone presidential candidate as a solution to resolving some of the crises in the country. But today we want to really look at him closely and what are the chances, what are the opportunities, and what is he doing that would warrant him to assume the supreme magistracy in Cameroon. So I'm going to dive straight into it. In 2018, and this question is going to go to all the panelists, I would definitely give a pride of place to the only female panelist, Dr. Mimi. In 2018, as candidate of the Popular Front for Development Party, Barrister Akere responded to a question from Al Jazeera on what would be the most significant thing he would do in his first 100 days in office. And he said, I would solve the Anglophone crisis in the first 100 days. Is this just a talking point or something that they think is doable? Because if you look at Joshua Osi's, the other candidate of the SDF, his own 2025 platform also points to the very idea that he would solve or resolve this crisis within the first 100 days. Is this really something that is doable within the first 100 days of any of these candidates in office? Mimi.
Thank you. So thanks. That's a good question. I think before I even go into answering the question, I would first like to remind everybody that Barrister Akere is not only the best candidate for the job, but I think the most qualified candidate for 2025. So in terms of the issues we have in Nozo, and he's saying that he can resolve it in 100 days. Of course, it's doable. I think he's not a man. He's a man that would not say something that he cannot do. He has a track record of successfully helping other African nations. And I do believe that if he actually said he could resolve the issues in Nozo in 100 days, that's something that he can accomplish. It's very doable.
Well, I think this is Kenneth, and what Barrister Akere did say, I think it's something that he has actually lived through it within his familial, within his home. And this is something he takes really, really serious to heart. Hopefully, if he, within his first 100 days, he will be able to resolve that crisis. But it's a much more profound statement, I think, coming from him. Because if you look at the whole Southern Cameroon's problem, right, most people actually accuse Pa Solomon Tandeng Muna, for just say for having Amadou Ahijo, clip the wings of the Southern Cameroons. Now, if you pay a lot of attention to what most Anglophones say, it's really not very palatable for the Muna family. But the question is, and we really need to ask ourselves, we need to see Barrister Akere as a candidate, as who he is himself. And no matter what we say about the sins of the father, why on earth should it visit the son? It should not. Not only that, Barrister Akere is, like Dr. Mimi mentioned a few moments ago, is a very well qualified Anglophone candidate for the post of the President of the Republic. We're looking forward to the fact that the incumbent president leaves and exits the scene, the stage where he is at, gracefully and honorably, so that we can have other Anglophones like Barrister Akere come into office.
So I'm just gonna piggyback off of what you just said. I think it's very important that as we look into October 2025, we just keep in mind that kids don't have to be punished for their father's sin or whatever, if there was any, sin to start with. So let's look at who is qualified. Let's look at who has what it takes to get Cameroon to where Cameroon needs to be. Let's look at who is going to be able to take the baton and, regardless of what the situation is, be able to get us to a better Cameroon. And I think that, given his experience, given the fact that he's helped other nations or other heads of states in Africa to get them to a better country, I think it will not be rocket science for him to do it for his own country. And I think if you go and look at why he run, if you go to akeremona.net, right, do this yourself. Go into akeremona.net and go through, his vision, his mission, and you understand that he means business. And what he's trying to do is get us to a country that we can, or get us a country that we can all be proud of, where we can make changes that, will help us move forward and make us have a better Cameroon.
Hubert, what is your take on that? Hubert, what is your take on that? Hubert, can you hear me?
Is Hubert on mute?
Lati, can we get Hubert? Okay, go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so first of all, thank you again, Mr. Tabenyang, and I want to extend my warm greetings to my co-panelists. To the issue of Akere Muno's candidacy, of course, we have all had the brilliant career that he has led so far, and he is a son of the soil. We're proud of him as a Cameroonian son, and it's okay for him to aspire. This aspiration of his speaks to the diversity of the political terrain in Cameroon, which is something that our young democracy encourages. What I want to insist is, as Dr. Mimi said, that he is the best candidate on the field. And it's okay, people have sympathies, and it's one of the things that we want to encourage as well. But the idea, hello? Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Can you hear me? Okay, so the idea of a merit-based candidacy is welcome. I think it's left onto the electorate as a whole to make that determination of who is capable in the current context to lead the ship.
Welcome, Jonas.
Thank you.
Hubert, can you put your phone horizontally?
Sorry?
Can you adjust your phone?
I'm using a laptop. It's a laptop that I'm using.
Can you keep your phone horizontally, Hubert? All right. While he's doing that, we're just gonna move on. Jonas, welcome and thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
We're gonna proceed. The first question was what Barrister Akere Muna promised to do within the first 100 days. I think back then in 2018, Is that still the case, that he could resolve the Anglophone crisis within the first 100 days when he's in office? Jonas? Lati, is Jonas? Mimi, back over to you. Currently, we have a monarchy system that does not call itself that. Everybody in the judicial system is appointed by the president. He can appoint and dismiss when he wants. The National Assembly is selected through a process of a list system, where parties have lists and the electoral process is controlled by the government. Then you have the Senate. The president appoints 30%, and then, of course, the other 70% are elected by the Electoral College. Would you say that there is also an uneven distribution of power in the Constitution, and what is Barrister Muna's solution to this situation?
Yeah, so thanks. That's another good question. So I think if you look at his vision, Barrister Akere's vision is towards a new republic. And what does that mean? There are three areas of the reason why he said towards a new republic. There is corruption that he wants to address, there is peace, and there is political transition. So I think it's unfair to have a country where the power stays with the executive branch when it comes to everything. In his vision, Barrister Akere Muna in this case, he has said that he would like to set up, three new institutions, where, set up new institution, e.g. federalism. He talks about an independence, three branches of government, which includes judiciary, parliamentary, and executive. And he also mentioned that everyone would take part in the new Cameroon in terms of bringing everybody on the table. So going back to Nozo, we get our Anglophone brothers and get everybody that has stake in the game to be on the table so we can decide on what's going on with Cameroon. And of course, healthcare. But I think it's important to outline that when you have a country like ours, and where the power is centered, it makes for craziness. It makes for corruption. It brings us to a place where we don't want to be, because everybody who is supposed to have power is from one area, right? Or is from the executive branch, which shouldn't be making decisions for the entire country. Hence the reason why he wants to look into federalism. And then I'll advise everybody again to go to akaremuna.net. Some of the things I'm going to say today, you can go on there and see for yourself or read for yourself. And if you have questions, you feel free to ask those questions, because I have asked those questions to be able to understand what he wants to do in terms of a transitional government.
I think one of the major concerns that is prevailing in Cameroon now is the age of the president. And there's a call for a younger candidate to replace. One of the major issues in Cameroon now is the age of the president. And I think there is a call that he should allow a transition to a younger generation of leadership. But if you look at Akere, what is really the difference between him and President Biya, given that both of them, I think, looking at his date of birth, is about 73 years old.
72.
72 years old. Is there a need for us to say, are we still within the same, here in the US, we have all the outcry about age and all of that, even though the president is 78.
3 years younger.
3 years younger. But is there really, Kenneth, and this is directed to you, is there an issue with that?
Well, you can argue and say Akere is a septuagenarian. and Paul Biya is a nanogenarian. There's a 20-year difference between these two people. I think I see Barrister Keremuna's candidature as one of a true transition, whereby with the Muna family name, it is a well-recognized name, especially in French Cameroon. And if he were able to come in there, he would perhaps create a good transition for a certain number of years. You see, he has an exquisite resume, and for the person I know, he says exactly what he means. He's not that type of a Cameroonian who means what he says and then doesn't say what he means. No, you get what you get from him, and that's it. That's just it. So I believe in his commitment towards it, in the independence of the executive, judiciary, and legislative bodies in the country, and also. But I would be curious as to how he would implement the federal structures of government. Are we going to be having gubernatorial elections? Is the Southern Cameroons going to be, what is going to be the status within the Federated United Republics of the Cameroons? I'd be curious to see what he has to offer on that.
Yeah, to dovetail on that, Mimi, how is he going to implement that, to really just follow up on what Kenneth was saying?
So let's go back to the whole age thing, right? When we look at the candidates that we have today, present, in terms of qualification and in terms of experience, there's Akere, who is 72, and then there's Kamto, who is 71, right? I'm saying this because I've had a lot of conversations around his age. And then if we're going to compare Batone Muna with the president, that's a stretch. Like Kenneth said, there's a 20-year gap, right? And even with the 20-year gap, I think we should also think about who has love for country. Batone is the person that I believe that, if somebody shows up today and was somebody that could do this job, take his position, and would do a great job, he would more than likely say, okay, great, how do we make you become better? So we talk about transitioning. He's somebody who has said continuously that he wants a transitional government where he can get all the good governance that we need as a country, get everything aligned, and then open up a fair election for everybody. And I don't think we can get that from any other candidates but him. I have not heard any other candidate say that they are open to a transitional government. And Cameroon is at a crossroad. We're at a crossroad where the leader we're going to pick next is going to make or break us. And if we don't think about, if we think that somebody is just going to come in and continue where the current president is, we're lying to ourselves. We need somebody that will come in and is willing to be a transitional person that would help put things in place so that we can have a better Cameroon for tomorrow.
But in as much as you may argue that there is a huge age difference, the argument has been people of the same generation that has held the country hostage. People within our own generation who are supposed to man the responsibility of state institutions still do not have a chance in Cameroon. So in as much as you might want to look at the age difference between him and the incumbent, Kamto is 71. The general cry from the youth in Cameroon is they have been maligned out of the administration of the country. How do you convince the youth that this is going to be different and this is just going to be transitional? Because transitional to most Africans is permanent. You can see what is happening in Gabon. The guy came in with a military jacket and said, this is a transitional government. Suddenly, he's with 90% of the electoral results. So it begs the credibility of people really believing that we're going to have maybe a transitional president. There is no question about the stellar achievement and professional capabilities of Batonie Akere Muna. I think given the candidates that you have so far, he would stand out, not just within the country, but within the global scene. But the question remains, is this not a missed opportunity for us to bring a younger person of a younger generation in there after almost 60 years of the very old people managing the state to this almost driving it to a ditch?
Okay, real quick? I'm just gonna jump on that real quick. So let's be clear that the state of the country right now, what you're saying is true. Batonie Muna works with a lot of young people. I think if you go and see the group of people that are working behind the scene in his campaign, you're not going to find anybody close to his age, because he believes that not only do we need the youth, but he believes that we need women, okay? Which is one of the reasons why I support him, right? We need women, we need the youth, we need our children to be involved. Now, if we want a good Cameroon or a better Cameroon for tomorrow, we're going to need somebody that has the experience to get us to where we need to go. Now, what am I trying to say? People our age, let's say 40s, 50s, they don't have the kind of experience the Batonie has. They don't have the know-how that he has. So, yes, if we have a transitional government for 4 years, he can prepare the ground for the youth. He can prepare the ground for people our generation. But I just believe that the state of the country right now, giving it to the youth, is to just continue the problems that we have or make it worse. We need somebody that knows what to do, understand the political landscape in Africa in general, has international relationships that can support and help us build a better Cameroon, and I think he has that. Going to your question on, how we show that it's a transitional government or transitional years, Batonie Muna doesn't have any political parties, right? And I think he doesn't have a political party because he doesn't want to. If he wanted to create one, he would have. But I think he's really the guy who wants to just get us to where we're supposed to be and then move on. Because being a player in the global scene in terms of, Transparency International, he's fighting about corruption, he's helping other African nations. I'm sure there are days when he sits back and look at the state of his own country and it bothers him. So I really believe that his presidential run, 2018, even this time around in 2025, is because he truly wants us to get a better country. And he knows that he has the ability, he has the qualification, and he has what it takes to get Cameroon to that next level.
But, Kenneth, it's hard to argue that when we look at the issue about age and younger generation, we see what is happening in Burkina Faso. We see what is happening in Senegal. We see what is happening in Mali. I think we see what is happening in Niger. And even next door, Chad. You have a younger generation of vibrant leaders trying to inject some sense of urgency into addressing the economic and developmental issues in the region. Do you really think that it must be as a candidate for you to impact or effect that change? Can Barrister Akere Muna not mentor a younger candidate who would come in with the necessary energy to make sure that things change? Because the fear is a lot of the people who are in government now, being the same people of the same generation, it's going to make it a little bit challenging for him to come in and say, all right, I'm going to not take a scalpel, I'll probably just take a big hammer and get everybody out of here. In as much as we would want experience, we also need innovation. We need younger people with innovative ways. You can see that even if not much is done, but there is some semblance of activity in Burkina Faso. There is some semblance of people embracing geomancy in Senegal. So this issue is something that really needs to be addressed. And thank you, Mimi. I think you're making a very strong case that in as much as that could be a factor, but he has the requisite experience to properly get the job done. Kenneth.
Okay. Brado, if we continue with incumbent President Paul Biya, we are sure of a continuation of what I will refer to as the Neolithic era. The Neolithic era goes anywhere from 10,000 to 5,000 BC. But with Akere Muna, at a minimum, we are sure of getting or stepping into the Stone Age or the Iron Age, which is anywhere from 5,000 to 1,000 or 750 BC. The true test for any of these guys is like when we had George Bush here. George Bush did not know how to use the brand new phone. Okay, and when Obama came in, Obama was using the Android phone, and it had to be secured. It had to have all presidential security and whatnot. So Paul Biya calls this phone, I don't know who told him about it, he calls it Android. That's the name he calls a phone. And he calls people who use these phones, he calls them Android generation. So you can see how Paul Biya is still in even the pre-colonial days inside his head. And with his mental state now, at his age, quite frankly, I really hope he exits the stage honorably. But let me come back to Akere Muna, Brado, in terms of the transitional leadership we're talking about here. We've had a northerner rule Cameroon, we've had the southerner today, Paul Biya rule Cameroon, who has overstayed his utility value. So if an Anglophone, you know, the geopolitical situation of the country necessitates an Anglophone to come to power. And if he can be Akere Muna, hey, I mean, he has shown his willingness to do so. Brother, I have a little subtle point I want to mention as we talk about the Akere Muna candidacy. I was quite impressed with him in 2018, which you mentioned a few moments ago, when he decided to side, or let's just say, ask his voters to vote Kamto. So it showed a willingness on his part to pull back and choose perhaps a better candidate at the time. So the question now beholds whether a Kamto will be willing to stand in force like what happened in Senegal, because these guys in Cameroon at Minat and Elekam, at Tanganji and the others, what they are trying to do is eliminate Kamto. So the question is, will Kamto stand behind an Akere Muna? Akere Muna stood behind him, and they can perhaps have a Senegalese type of a scenario.
Thank you. We now go on a commercial break. Lati, can we get the other panelists on board? Lati, commercial break.
Du 29 au 31 août 2025, rejoignez-nous à Atlantic City dans le New Jersey pour la All Bar Milwaukee Convention North America, un événement unique qui réunit les meilleurs acteurs du monde des affaires et de l'investissement. Atlantic City, destination idéale pour un séjour d'affaires, offre un cadre exceptionnel entre plage, hôtels luxueux et environnement propice aux opportunités. C'est ici que les affaires prennent une nouvelle dimension. Pour cette édition spéciale du All Bar Milwaukee Convention North America, une plateforme idéale sera offerte aux entrepreneurs, investisseurs et visionnaires. Une occasion unique de rencontrer des partenaires partenaires stratégiques, d'élargir votre réseau et d'explorer de nouvelles opportunités sur le marché camerounais. Découvrez comment les investissements peuvent transformer l'économie camerounaise. Que vous soyez un investisseur en herbe ou un acteur aguerri, cette convention vous donne accès à un marché en pleine expansion, une économie dynamique et un peuple prêt à innover. All Bar Miliki Convention, rencontre d'affaires, symposium, séance barbecue, opportunités d'investissement, soirées culturelles et grandes soirées de gala. Tout ça à Atlantic City. Ne laissez pas passer cette opportunité unique. Inscrivez-vous dès aujourd'hui et participez à All Bar Miliki Convention North America, New Jersey 2025 du 29 au 31 août. All Bar Miliki Convention, One People, One Destiny. Du 29 au 31 août 2025, rejoignez-nous à Atlantic City dans le New Jersey pour la All Bar Miliki Convention North America, un événement unique qui réunit les meilleurs acteurs du monde des affaires et de l'investissement. Atlantic City, destination idéale pour un séjour d'affaires, offre un cadre exceptionnel entre plage, hôtel luxueux et environnement propice aux opportunités. C'est ici que les affaires prennent une nouvelle dimension. Pour cette édition spéciale du All Bar Miliki Convention North America, une plateforme idéale sera offerte aux entrepreneurs, investisseurs et visionnaires. Une occasion unique de rencontrer des partenaires stratégiques, d'élargir votre réseau et d'explorer de nouvelles opportunités sur le marché camerounais. Découvrez comment les investissements peuvent transformer l'économie camerounaise. Que vous soyez un investisseur en herbe ou un acteur aguerri, cette convention vous donne accès à un marché en pleine expansion, une économie dynamique et un peuple prêt à innover. All Bar Miliki Convention, rencontre d'affaires, symposium, séance barbecue, opportunités d'investissement, soirées culturelles et grandes soirées de gala. Tout ça à Atlantic City. Ne laissez pas passer cette opportunité unique. Inscrivez-vous dès aujourd'hui et participez à All Bar Miliki Convention North America, New Jersey 2025 du 29 au 31 août. All Bar Miliki Convention, One People, One Destiny. Du 29 au 31 août 2025, rejoignez-nous à Atlantic City dans le New Jersey pour la All Bar Miliki Convention North America, un événement unique qui réunit les meilleurs acteurs du monde des affaires et de l'investissement. Atlantic City, destination idéale pour un séjour d'affaires, offre un cadre exceptionnel entre plage, hôtel luxueux et environnement propice aux opportunités. C'est ici que les affaires prennent une nouvelle dimension. Pour cette édition spéciale du All Bar Miliki Convention North America, une plateforme idéale sera offerte aux entrepreneurs, investisseurs et visionnaires. Une occasion unique de rencontrer des partenaires stratégiques, d'élargir votre réseau et d'explorer de nouvelles opportunités sur le marché camerounais. Découvrez comment les investissements peuvent transformer l'économie camerounaise. Que vous soyez un investisseur en herbe ou un acteur aguerri, cette convention vous donne accès à un marché en pleine expansion, une économie dynamique et un peuple prêt à innover. All Bar Miliki Convention, rencontre d'affaires, symposium, séance barbecue, opportunités d'investissement, soirées culturelles et grandes soirées de gala. Tout ça à Atlantic City. Ne laissez pas passer cette opportunité unique. Inscrivez-vous dès aujourd'hui et participez à All Bar Miliki Convention North America, New Jersey 2025 du 29 au 31 août. All Bar Miliki Convention, One People, One Destiny. Du 29 au 31 août 2025, rejoignez-nous à Atlantic City dans le New Jersey pour la All Bar Miliki Convention North America, un événement unique qui réunit les meilleurs acteurs du monde des affaires et de l'investissement. Atlantic City, destination idéale pour un séjour d'affaires, offre un cadre exceptionnel entre plage, hôtel luxueux et environnement propice aux opportunités. C'est ici que les affaires prennent une nouvelle dimension. Pour cette édition spéciale du All Bar Miliki Convention North America, une plateforme idéale sera offerte aux entrepreneurs, investisseurs et visionnaires. Une occasion unique de rencontrer des partenaires stratégiques, d'élargir votre réseau et d'explorer de nouvelles opportunités sur le marché camerounais. Découvrez comment les investissements peuvent transformer l'économie camerounaise. Que vous soyez un investisseur en herbe ou un acteur aguerri, cette convention vous donne accès à un marché en pleine expansion, une économie dynamique et un peuple prêt à innover. All Bar Miliki Convention, rencontre d'affaires, symposium, séance barbecue, opportunités d'investissement, soirées culturelles et grandes soirées de gala. Tout ça à Atlantic City. Ne laissez pas passer cette opportunité unique. Inscrivez-vous dès aujourd'hui et participez à All Bar Miliki Convention North America, New Jersey 2025 du 29 au 31 août. All Bar Miliki Convention, One People, One Destiny. Du 29 au 31 août 2025, rejoignez-nous à Atlantic City dans le New Jersey pour la All Bar Miliki Convention North America, un événement unique qui réunit les meilleurs acteurs du monde des affaires et de l'investissement. Atlantic City, destination idéale pour un séjour d'affaires, offre un cadre exceptionnel entre plage, hôtel luxueux et environnement propice aux opportunités. C'est ici que les affaires prennent une nouvelle dimension. Pour cette édition spéciale du All Bar Convention North America, une plateforme idéale sera offerte aux entrepreneurs, investisseurs et visionnaires. Une occasion unique de rencontrer des partenaires stratégiques, d'élargir votre réseau et d'explorer de nouvelles opportunités sur le marché camerounais. Découvrez comment les investissements peuvent transformer l'économie camerounaise. Que vous soyez un investisseur en herbe ou un acteur aguerri, cette convention vous donne accès à un marché en pleine expansion, une économie dynamique et un peuple prêt à innover. All Bar Convention, rencontre d'affaires, symposium, séance barbecue, opportunités d'investissement, soirée culturelle et grande soirée de gala. Tout ça à Atlantic City. Ne laissez pas passer cette opportunité unique. Inscrivez-vous dès aujourd'hui et participez à All Bar Convention North America, New Jersey 2025 du 29 au 31 août. All Bar Convention. One people, one destiny. Du 29 au 31 août 2025, rejoignez-nous à Atlantic City dans le New Jersey pour la All Bar Convention North America, un événement unique qui réunit les meilleurs acteurs du monde des affaires et de l'investissement. Atlantic City, destination idéale pour un séjour d'affaires, offre un cadre exceptionnel entre plage, hôtel luxueux et environnement propice aux opportunités. C'est ici que les affaires prennent une nouvelle dimension. Pour cette édition spéciale du All Bar Convention North America, une plateforme idéale sera offerte aux entrepreneurs, investisseurs et visionnaires. Une occasion unique de rencontrer des partenaires stratégiques, d'élargir votre réseau et d'explorer de nouvelles opportunités sur le marché camerounais. Découvrez comment les investissements peuvent transformer l'économie camerounaise. Que vous soyez un investisseur en herbe ou un acteur aguerri, cette convention vous donne accès à un marché en pleine expansion, une économie dynamique et un peuple prêt à innover. All Bar Convention, rencontre d'affaires, symposium, séance barbecue, opportunités d'investissement, soirée culturelle et grande soirée de gala. Tout ça à Atlantic City. Ne laissez pas passer cette opportunité unique. Inscrivez-vous dès aujourd'hui et participez.
Thank you, and welcome back. We are happy to, because of the technical issues, to get back Hubert and Jonas, who are joining us remotely. Again, today we are looking at the presidential candidacy of Batone Akere Muna for the 2025 presidential elections in Cameroon. Hubert, before we had the technical issues, the question was, what do you really think about the chances of Barrister Akere Muna's candidacy? Hubert.
To be honest with you, Maitre Akere Muna has been a player in the political scenes of Cameroon since he became and even way before he became the bâtonnier. I think he's good in the sense that he represents a vibrant current of thought politically, where he thinks of a transition as being the way forward. But before we even accept him as a transition candidate, I would like to ask, what is he transiting from? The institutions of the Republic of Cameroon are very solid. Granted, we have some issues, governance issues and other things, which are very characteristics of young democracies. But you don't just come up and say you want to set up a government of transition when there is no crisis per se. I think he means well. He's got a stellar curriculum vitae resume, and he's got some credibility in the international stage. But to be honest with you, he is, I see in his candidacy a display of political opportunism, given that he doesn't actually have a party base, and he will be one that will jump from platform to platform, provided he is given the mantle as the party candidate. And this is what he has played with the Unified Party, where Professor Mvondo approached him and asked him to be the candidate for their party. He comes across as being, in other words, not a candidate that is vying for popular votes, but basically an elitist understanding of who will be best placed to be the leader of Cameroon moving forward. My take is always allow the electorate to be the one to vote based on the agenda and based on the political goals, short term and long term, that the candidate brings to the field. Dr. Mimi was insisting that we look at his website and see exactly what it is that he's offering. I think, yeah, we should encourage every Cameroonian to go there, and he too should be um, more seen. She should come out a little bit more energetically so that the population as a whole, the voting population as a whole, can understand where he's coming from. The CPDM party, granted, is it's an established party. It's got its roots all over the territory of Cameroon, and it's a formidable challenger for all I know. And it's just good that any political party or aspirant has to bear that in mind when they're making pronouncements on how to gain political power. Thank you.
To piggyback on that point, Jonas, uh, I think Hubert is trying to argue that the barrister seems like a political journeyman. He doesn't really has a political party. In 2018, he was the candidate of another party. I think what was that the anyway, I can figure that out. But apparently, it's a different party that he was a candidate in 2018, and presently he is the candidate of Universe Party. If he cannot really create and manage his own party, how do you convince the electorate that he can be given that responsibility to manage an entire state? Jonas.
Thank you for the opportunity. I think that a leader must not own a party. When people are voting, they are voting for people who can direct a country, who can lead a country to prosperity, and not looking for parties. That is why he has been invested not only by Univer, but by a number of political parties, among which I can cite the UPC, the PAP, LCN, Peuple, UCPN, and even civil society organization, the Now Movement, which he heads. And now the Now Movement, which is predominantly a youth group. So we should not think that owning a party means that you are able to lead a country. It is not the ownership of a party. It makes people instead look at the political leaders as monarchs rather than leaders. So I think that in that light, we should rather look at what
Yes, I'm just gonna. Thank you, Jonas. I'm just gonna follow up on what Jonas said, right? So I think when we refer to the bâtonnier as a journeyman, it's kind of funny because him being able to say, okay, I want to be a transitional person, that can only be possible if political party, it's easier for him to ask to run again. But the fact that he stays with the movement, the Now Movement, by the way, 2018, it wasn't another political party. He is the one that created and founded the Now Movement. So that's a correction. So he's running under Univer this time, and it's not just Univer, it's a coalition of parties in Cameroon, opposition parties, that decided to put him at the head of the ticket. It wasn't just Univer. So it's Univer and a few more other parties, I think about 20 of them, that Mr. Jonas have listed a few. So So let's just be mindful of the fact that owning a political party doesn't make you the best candidate, doesn't make you the best president, right? There are people who are president today that ran on movements. And the fact that he's the candidate that a couple of people can pick and say they want him to run as the head of a ticket of a coalition speaks volume on its own, right? So let's just keep that in mind. I think we should focus more on quality and experience, right? In terms of the candidacy, as opposed to, okay, this person is going from one party to the other. I mean, I think what we want as Cameroonian is a better Cameroon. And who else can give us a better Cameroon moving forward? I think it's the bâtonnier.
Hubert, before I bring in Kenneth, I think I am seeing a pattern. The argument about 20 political parties have picked him to represent as a flag bearer is equally like the CPDM saying we have 150 political parties, knowing fully well in Cameroon these mushroom parties some of them do not even have an office. Which are these political parties that we throw out here to bamboozle the electorate, that 50, 60 political parties are lining up behind these candidates? This has been the strategy of the CPDM. And if you are trying to unseat somebody that you think have really been terrible at doing a job, it might not as well be copying what they are doing. That is my opinion. So Hubert, what do you really think? Because when they talk about Cameroon, they said you have 2-3 major political parties. You have the SDF, even though for me again is really no longer a major political party. Camto, you have UPC, that is a shadow of itself. And then now you have Nko Mvondo, who mostly is known because of his ties to Fekafood, not even much politics. How do we get around this situation? Not in a country of 30 million people, you have 30 million political parties.
Cameroonian, of course, can decide to run
Hubert.
if he meets the qualifications based on our constitution. What is a little surprising to me is one who is as knowledgeable as Barrister Akere to fall into this little game that politicians play. You know, I want to go back to when Frunzi a few decades ago, gave a run to our party, the party that I really am affiliated with, which and it was a formidable run, and he did that with a slogan and with a loyalty to values and political principles, which are still valid to some extent, and they gained political power. So it's good it's good for anyone, like I said, to run. But come on, when the French people say petit parti politique, it means that they are political outfits of no consequence. In other words, they don't weigh, they don't have any political weight in the political scenario of the country. So it is his choice, and I'm not sure what deal he has broken with Professor Mvondo. But it's very clear that he just seeks a platform. I think it would be better for him if he had chosen to continue with his Now movement, vigorously present it, and hopefully get some allegiance from other people coming to him, not he going to other folks. And again, this is his choice, but there is not a chance that he will make a major impact because those parties are not political heavyweights. They won't turn the scales when it comes to political transition in Cameroon.
Thank you.
I would like to take that. So I think, if I'm understanding well, Mr. Ibit, you're saying that there are too many political parties in Cameroon, little one, right? And then you also mentioned the fact that you would have rather the bâtonnier stay with the Now movement. He is part of the Now movement. He's still the Now movement, but the Now movement is part of a coalition, right? So the bâtonnier is still the owner, still the founder, and still the person running the Now movement. However, The Now movement is now a part of a bigger structure, which is the coalition of the 20 parties. And to go back to Tabenyang's mention of, what's the difference with all the different parties being merged together. I don't think that, Batonier got up one day and said, let's create a coalition. However, if the Batonier is part of a conversation that everybody on the table agrees that there should be a coalition, a true statesman will say, okay, if everybody here believes in a coalition, I should be able to back that up. So it wasn't that he got up one day and said, okay, I want to be a part of I want to build a coalition and I'll have all these people follow me. Like you said, the current party has 150 or somewhere around there. I think we should also just be mindful of the fact that the question here is he a candidate that can make it happen? Is he a good candidate? And the answer is yes. Again, I was beg on everybody to go to akeremuna.net to read for themselves. And I think there's an area there that says contact us. If you have questions like I had, and I asked him, I beg of you to put your question in and somebody will get back to you. Probably the Batonier himself. So let's not just forget about why we're at this point, right? Why are we here? We're asking about the chances of Akere being the next president, or if he can win. And the answer is yes, because if you look at everybody on the lineup, he has the most experience. He has the most relationships outside of the country that can help us to build a better Cameroon. And if you read about what he wants to do for the country in terms of Boko Haram, the Nozo issue, in terms of fixing the political issues that we have currently, in terms of, we put roadblocks every time we feel somebody is better or stronger than us. And he believes in fairness, he believes in transparency. And I think that's what he will bring to us come October 2025. If he's voted, I think we'll all be happy to see a new Cameroon under his leadership.
Thank you, Doc. Kenneth, I think before we move away from that same question, it is just like what Hubert was saying. The candidates have to make themselves accessible. It is worrying if we are sending people at the grassroots to go look for information about the candidates online. Somebody in Ginikejum without any internet would not have access to the information that we are directing them to go online. So just the same way Bia is staying in a today without going to talk to the grassroots, it looks like this is the same thing that most of these candidates are doing. Kenneth, how do you analyze this situation?
Well, if you look at the penetration of cell phones today, or mobile phones, the mobile phones are in lots of villages, and I believe that some of the information people otherwise could not access before, they can do that with their cell phones today. Even grandmothers in the village, people do a lot of transactions online, mobile money, what have you. But with that being said, of course, these coalitions, parties, what have you, they do actually need some type of grassroots representation from the divisional right down to the subdivisional level. There's no doubt about that, because that person-to-person interaction is very important. Mr. Hubert Kangwa of the Parti de Flamme mentioned a few things a few moments ago which were quite outlandish. You see, the Social Democratic Front, one of the founding fathers of the Social Democratic Front is Mr. Ben Muna. Okay, and the Social Democratic Front was founded on the grievances. The baseline of it all were the grievances of the Anglophones in the Cameroons, of Southern Cameroonians. And then after that, SDF took a national outlook. Okay, so for Mr. Kamwa to call, Mr. Akere has skillfully stayed out of partisan politics, if I can put it that way. And for him to call him a political opportunist, it's somewhat laughable. You have in France, the president of France, Macron. Macron doesn't have a political party. So the way the constitution and the laws are structured in Cameroon, in fact, it is very difficult for you to be an independent candidate because those people who they say you need signatures from each of the 10 provinces or regions, by the time those guys sign their name, of course, you are going to have Sene or DGRE kill all these people because these are the type of things they've been doing for a very, very long time. The person who registered John Frundi for elections in 92 in I don't know, somewhere in the South Province, West Province, that guy was killed. That guy was killed. He's the one who stamped the thing. They killed him. So let's not kid ourselves here. We know the truth. We know the Cameroon that we are in.
Yeah, Kenneth, let's move on. I think
No, I would like to just add something.
Mimi. I think before you come in, again, I don't think that for those who are Pan-Africanists who would like to be taking examples from France and beside, Macron has a party, he created a party. Go ahead, Mimi.
So let me go back to what you said, about the internet. I think we can all agree that the Bâtonnier is one of those candidates that is actually out there. 2018, you could see him on the back of bikes. As a matter of fact, last week he was at Macaque. So he's that candidate that goes to the people, right? So we cannot sit here and say I'm directing people to his website because a lot of people, like Kenneth said, have cell phones these days and they can go in there, look and ask questions if they want. But the Bâtonnier has been to Limbe, the Bâtonnier has been to Macaque last week. And I think if you're talking about a candidate that is out there on the ground, if you go and Google it, you'll see that the Bâtonnier is out there on the ground.
I think to that point, the candidate of the SDF, their representative last week said he is the only candidate that has gone through the entire territory. But the question that I asked him here, again, my opinion is independent. Has he been to his own village in the Indian division? And the answer was no. So you can going to Boya, Limbe, or even in upstation Bamenda is anything that anybody can do. I don't want us to be distracted with that. The argument is these candidates have to make themselves available to the electorate. Even here in the US, where you have a mobile network all across the 50 states, the candidates go door to door. And we can claim otherwise that because it's internet, somebody in Acquire, where there is really that accessibility there is very, very difficult, is going to have the same information that you have. So I'm going to move on. Jonas, this question, corruption is systemic and distorts governance in Cameroon.
Yes.
The barrister worked at Transparency International. How is he going to tackle corruption in Cameroon, and should he prosecute the incumbent President Paul Biya should he win the elections?
To tackle corruption in Cameroon, he will begin by reforming the institutions, even though someone said the institutions are robust. If the institutions were strong, there would have been no corruption in Cameroon. So he will come in with transparency, beginning by declaration of assets. He will first declare his own assets. In 2018 he did that, and he is still ready to do that. And he will want everybody to do that, and also that integrity should be our watchword. And then to go to the last part of your question, I think that he is not out to prosecute The first thing is that one cannot give what he doesn't have. You give only what you have. And so the incumbent, he has done what he could do. But the main thing is for Cameroon to move ahead. He is a lawyer, but he wants what he will do is to first audit and to know where we are in order to make plans for prosperity. So as far as I know, his ambition is not to come and begin prosecuting people, because that will instead delay the development and may lead even to a civil war.
Thank you. On the Southern Cameroon crisis, this is what Barrister Muna said, that the Anglophones came to the arrangement with LROC in good faith, and they were all fired up by the spirit of Pan-Africanism. As it stands, 40% of the GDP is because of oil. All the oil facilities are in the Anglophone parts. It cannot be said that that part of the country benefited from the oil, and that is something that was grossly mismanaged. As we speak, the governors of the Northwest and Southwest are Francophones, which in this atmosphere is crazy. You arrest Anglophones and try them in the military courts in Yaoundé, where they are sentenced in French. It doesn't make sense. Those who use oppression are under the misconception that might is right. He says the solution is dialogue. And I think that after 40 or after 60 years of having only Francophones as president, now is the time to have an Anglophone as president. My question to you, the panelists, is the Southern Cameroon's president the solution to the Anglophone crisis? Mimi.
So I think that Kenneth mentioned this earlier. We've had presidents from different parts of Cameroon, and I think we're at the crossroad. And when you're at the crossroad, you look at everything you have in front of you, and you think of, how do I get to a better state? Now, I say to myself, who best to fix a problem than a person who understands the problem, right? Everybody that, we talk about today in terms of presidential candidate, I don't think anybody can argue with me that the bâtonnier doesn't have the right background, the experience, and the quality that it takes to be able to resolve the problem we have in the Southern Cameroons. So I'll go back to the fact that we have to start considering or start looking at what the visions are for the candidates. If you have a candidate who has a vision, like you said, he mentioned that in the first 100 days he'll fix the problem in Nozo. We have to start looking at those, because I think we are so accustomed to political parties coming to us during the election year and literally telling us whatever we want to hear, but we never go back to say, okay, can this person really do this? And what can prove to us that they can do this besides the experience that they have in resolving conflicts and stuff like that? So I do believe that for us to move forward as a better country, we need somebody with the bâtonnier's background. We need him to be able to come in with his vision of, corruption fighting, peace, and a smooth transition. I think we should be able to get ourselves to a better country.
You bet.
Yes, sir.
And the same question.
Can you repeat the question again, please?
Is the Southern Cameroon's president the solution to the Anglophone crisis?
Again, thank you so much. And this is the point that I wanted to make sure that we understand as we move forward. This idea of political fixing of candidates to solve specific issues has proven to be a failure in many other democracies in the world. You have to understand, we either are a democracy or we are not. And if we think that, it is time for an Anglophone president to be at the helm of the country, let the electorate make that decision. Let him go and campaign on that platform and see if he will be given the mandate to succeed. I don't want us to find that or to take the fact that he's an Anglophone and say this is the time for an Anglophone president. It might be okay, it's a political aspiration and it's a free country. But let the electorate, this is the cornerstone of a democracy. Let the people who are voting vote. If they are the ones who are saying through their votes that they need an Anglophone president, there be it. But to campaign on that premise alone, as if that is the magic wand that's going to make Cameroon a better country, it's an illusion. If we as accept, and he has the resume to go for it, that he is the best candidate in terms of his exposure in the country and out of the country, let him run on that. It is one thing, and I see this as the great danger to our country. The fact that there is a patrimonial tendency. In other words, there is a feeling of entitlement or a feeling of being the only ones that are capable of ruling, of being the leaders. Let this patrimonial tendency in our democracy be killed before it consumes us. We had a man I adored in my youth, Solomon Tandemuna, who had this great strength and aura of a leader, who served his country very well. And we also have other leaders who have also served the country very well. And if Akere comes in his own might and say, "Hey, I can do better," do it. Just go ahead and do it based on your political inclinations, convictions, and visions for the country. But to go back to that old play of this is an Anglophone, this is the time for an Anglophone, it's just a little bit not serving our national interests as a country.
Kenneth, you have been one of the strongest advocates of an Aboriginal Anglophone as the next president of that contraption called Cameroon. What do you really think? Is this could this be the solution to resolving the crisis in Cameroon? Is the crisis in Cameroon stemming from the inability of the people from that region assuming the supreme magistracy of that country?
Yes, it is. And Brado, please give me a little bit of time on this specific issue. I'm not going to take too long. I'll speak as fast as I possibly can. But this is the silver lining in the cloud. Amadou Ahidjo in 1961, after the plebiscite, did not want the Southern Cameroons to join La République du Cameroun. Amadou Ahidjo wanted the Northern Cameroons, what was called Cameroon Meridional. And when he lost the vote, because he was a non-entity up there, did not belong to any feudal family, when he lost the vote, Amadou Ahidjo actually protested at the United Nations officially because he did not want the Southern Cameroons. Okay. When the Southern Cameroons vote came in, Amadou Ahidjo, whom Jean-Paul Ramadia and Pierre Mesmer had used to kick out André Marimbida on the other side, colluded to systematically annihilate the Southern Cameroons with Pierre, these guys. Anyway, since 1961, Professor Bernard Fonlon had been writing secret letters to Amadou Ahidjo complaining about the treatment of Southern Cameroonians. Paul Biya, in fact, after the 1966 with Gomjoa and whatnot, long story short, Amadou Ahidjo, after visiting France in April, Rousseau of France gave Amadou Ahidjo a constitution. Amadou Ahidjo came May 20th, the day that this guy went and re-enslaved blacks in 1802 in Haiti and La Réunion. The May 20th made the day of re-enslavement of Cameroonians. Then we had a United Republic. The second in command was Pa Solomon Tandeng Muna. The first In the 1972 Constitution, Amadou Ahidjo, the president, and vice president, or actually president of the National Assembly, Solomon Tandeng Muna. That was the Constitution. In 1979, Amadou Ahidjo changed the Constitution. It should not be the president of the president of the National Assembly to replace the president. It should be the prime minister, Paul Biya. And as a matter of fact, after 72, there was no prime minister for 3 years, from 72 to 75. All of a sudden, from nowhere, Amadou Ahidjo comes with a prime minister and makes Paul Biya prime minister in 1975. Again, with the constitutional change in 79, that is how Biya became president in 82. And when he even became president, Paul Biya had, Amadou Ahidjo had sent Solomon Tandeng Muna out of the country in that November. But Pa Muna heard of a rumor and packed his bags very fast from London, came back to Cameroon, and that is, Amadou Ahidjo was surprised that he was even in Cameroon, and that is how he ended up at his National Assembly to administer the oath to Paul Biya. So here we are, from 61 to today. I don't know whether it's 60 years or however you do the math. Amadou Ahidjo from up there, Garoua, and then Paul Biya from down here. Just as in Tanganyika, Tanzania, Zanzibar and Tanzania would join, it is time for an Anglophone. These guys have been eating and chopping our oil money for 60 years. Paul Biya is there sitting there. Adolphe Mudiki, they are chopping the oil money. Chantal Biya, what is that? Nathalie Mudiki, her friend, the father who went to jail in 72 after the Amadou Ahidjo Stadium in Omispo. It is time for an Anglophone president, and they've rejected us. We're not going to reject them. We will rule that country, put it together, and have a fantastic nation. The Akere Muna can be the president. There's no problem.
Thank you, Kenneth. Jonas, concerning the vote itself, there are questions about the independence of the Directorate General of Elections, which is responsible for organizing the election and supervising the electoral board and electoral count.
Yes.
This is what Barrister Muna said in 2018. The system is made to favor the president and is tailored to be tweaked to make sure he wins. And the only chance we have to fight against this is the population. What has changed? Everything that was in 2018 is still what we are experiencing now. It is even getting a little bit more challenging because the civil society and the press is being muscled by the administration. So what is different now that Barrister Muna is telling us that, okay, this time is different, I'm going to run and I will definitely win, when the conditions that were prevalent in 2018 are still what we have today? Jonas.
Yes, the conditions are the same, but the determination of the population is not the same. The population is more determined today than they were in 2018. And so, when the population is determined, you never can predict what will happen. So if somebody is used to a certain way, he should not think that he will always go away with it.
But
you never know what will be,
Jonas,
but we know that
Jonas,
there's greater determination.
Jonas, I think the barrister himself argued in 2018 that the population was more determined and they would not allow their vote to be stolen. If any of those shenanigans happen, the population was going to go out in the streets. 2025, the situation has not changed. And I'm asking this question because even Kawala had asked these questions. What is the point of going into an election that you know the outcome of that election? With the present dispensation in Cameroon, There is no one here that would think, except that it's a fickle dream, that with these present conditions, with the same person, the Constitutional Council, Elecam, the Minister of Territorial Administration, the traditional institutions of the traditional rulers, the population and the electorate is completely out of this picture. What has changed?
Well, truly nothing has changed, but there are also some strategies that may not be brought up publicly. They remain as strategies, because if one should not surrender because you see that this man is there, this one is there. Even those people who are there, you never know how or what can happen at any time, because they even those in the institutions, they too can also get tired of doing what they've been doing.
Mimi, I think to come to you,
Yeah.
in as much as you have notable figures like Kawala saying they were not going to be part of the 2025 election because nothing has changed. There is a strong argument that you cannot also say that between 2025 till now nothing has changed. Some things have changed, but structurally, basically the election mechanism in the country has not changed.
So actually, I'll say it this way. I am one of those people that actually thinks that the situation got worse. Okay, from 2018 to today, I think things got worse, which is why I believe that the country needs a leader like Batone Mona, that has the experience and is skilled enough to be able to get us to where we have to be, right? And I think we need somebody that will bring the country to the 21st century. But going back to your question, I think when we sit here and we talk about nothing has changed in terms of elecams and whatever, it means that we're basically throwing off our future and say, okay, you know what, we can't do nothing about this. And Jonas did mention that it's not every strategy that the opposition will have that they need to also lay out for everybody to hear or know, because then you're giving your opponent an upper hand, right? So I do believe that why things have gotten worse is the more reason why we need somebody with the Batone's background and experience. We need to get Cameroon to the 21st century. Right now, we're stuck somewhere, I don't know. However, Elecam did what Elecam did or what they've been doing in 2018. That doesn't mean that the last 70 years, the oppositions or the Batone himself and his team, by the way, he works with a lot of young people. Like, I think most of the people on his team are our generation or maybe even younger, because he's that kind of a leader. And I think he wants to prepare Cameroon for the leaders of tomorrow, which is our generation. They're also thinking about what they can do or how they can fight the situation of, Elecam always ready to announce their results that suits them, right? So I think we should all just go encourage our family members and people that are back home to register to vote. And I know he mentioned in 2018 that people should police their votes. I think there's no time like now for Cameroonians to be ready to make sure that the elections are fair and the results are correct. Like they're not something that everybody's gonna come out asking how did that happen. For us to make sure that there are no question marks at the end, let's encourage our family members, people that are back home, ourselves, to make sure that we police our votes and are there to count them when the time comes.
You bet. I think as a political mind, Kenneth, before I come to you, is it just the usual political talk of these political candidates that in every election cycle that things are really bad, more than what was there before? It seems to me that this is a reoccurrence. It's like we are moving in circles. In 2018, a lot of these arguments that we hear now and the reason for hope that were given in 2018 are being recycled again. For those who have been keen observers of the political ecosystem in Cameroon, and even here in the US, I think most of the time you have this dire mass hysteria that the world is going to come to a bruising end. But after the elections, everybody goes back to their different activities. Is this just the opposition trying to score political points, or the system is actually what it is? Is LECAM really that bad that it cannot carry out a fair and transparent election in that country? Or this is just political talks from the opposition to score political points?
Tabenyang, I think, and again, not to take away from the political courage that these leaders have, it's quite daunting to go after power in a country where the political landscape is dominated by a long-standing party such as the CPDM. So that's understood. But I would want to be very clear. Even though Elekem has some issues, it's like I said, all our institutions are very embryonic. They are just developing. And I think it behooves all of us to encourage that. Where there is a will, there is a way. And I say this just to say that instead of throwing up their hands and saying, well, Elekem, we can't, there is no need for us to go. They should go with the understanding that the population, the electorate, the power is with the people. And I don't know how they mobilize, or I don't know how effectively they mobilize, but it's very important to know that where there is a will, there is a way. If they have canvas for votes, true votes across the country, they can make a mark. I've always encouraged opposition parties to make sure that their presence are felt on the ground, because at the end of the day, Elecam cannot corrupt or cannot. You can't just steal all the votes. Some of the votes are very genuine votes, you know. So it's very clear that the CPDM party has a working majority, a winning majority in the entire country. What they should do, these parties and many political figures such as Batonie Muna with their coalitions are trying to understand the process of coalescing as becoming one and providing a common front as the solution to the dominance of the political landscape by CPDM. But populism, or the idea of just saying things and excuses, it's a very weak perspective. Any political leader who thinks that they can go for the presidency of the republic should go forth, knowing that they have a vision that has power enough to convince the majority of the electorate. It's very simple. Sometimes it might look challenging because of the fact that, yes, there are some things that go on, and that's why we have international observers. It's not just something that's done within closed doors, and it's a process. It's a learning process, and I think if they come like they came in 2018 and failed, and then they're coming again in 2025, they should find other ways to get to the power. It's not just by saying these things. Nobody really cares. Sometimes it's very clear, and you've heard people say around, "Oh, so Paul Biya is going to win again. This, no matter what they do," and it's true because they have the majority of the country. But if you want to chip at that majority, you have to do something credible, and political credibility is won on the ground. It's not what you say or the pronouncements that you make across the media. Thank you.
Kenneth,
A lot has changed since 2018, and in fact, for the worse. You see, Brado, that's 7 years. 7 years is you leave primary school, class 6, 7, you enter from 1. 7 years you're in upper seat, and then you're now entering university. I have a 19-year-old, and 7 years ago, she was in school, boarding school in Cameroon. From 2. I took her out, brought her back here, and now she's in university. Now, think about the number of us who have had children and enlarged the voters' registers. In 92, if they were disenfranchising 10 of us, today you're disenfranchising 100 people at least. Okay. Last year, April 2024, I was in Cameroon. Ben Skinners blocked the road in Yaoundé from Lonkap to the presidency for 4.5 hours. Okay. If something strange happens with the 8 million plus registered voters who have been regularly disenfranchised, I hear that Ferdinand Gongo has B, Paul Biya has B, Bataillon Intervention Rapide, or that people are keeping guns and whatnot wherever. When the population of Yaoundé comes out, how will we stop them? And an insurrection is going to take place. That is why we are saying that out of love for country, the incumbent president, who is comfortably where he is and on the stage, should exit gracefully. Because when these youths of today, we are no longer youths. We are youths in their eyes because we are their children, but we are old people. Paul Biya got to power at 49. 49. We are no longer youths. We are past 49 today. It is our children who are the youth. And you tell me that the anger, these children are at boiling point. And you do not want that type of anger to overflow. Why am I powering? Fang Betibulu, brothers and relatives not telling this their father and grandfather? Please, Pa, laissons la faire là. Leave it. It's time. Today, Paul Biya is where Amadou Ahidjo was in 1982. The people need to understand that it is their time to exit their stage and they pass on the baton. So this whole thing of, 2018, this, I'm telling you, like Dr. Mimi said a few moments ago, it has changed for the worse. And the anger is no longer coming from people like me. It has multiplied. It's a choir of anger.
Dr. Mimi, I think I tend to a little bit disagree with what Kenneth is saying, that the anger has multiplied, or that same docile population is going to have the kahunas or the backbone to go out in the streets, knowing fully well that a segment of that country, the 2 English-speaking regions of that country, fell to the point where they got to think that they have had enough of the injustices against their communities, the marginalization against them, and they went into the streets. And we all know the outcome, that they were brutally rained down by the machinery in that country. You are dealing with a regime that might at times, because of survival, will do whatever it takes to maintain their grip on power. So it's easy for us to sit in studios like this and say, oh yeah, the people are going to go to the street, the whole Yaoundé is going to come out. You and I know very well that it's not going to happen, because this is what the barrister himself said in 2018. I'm going to go back. He had an interview with Al Jazeera. I think we have to make sure we win. If they try to steal this victory, we will protest it. But I think the people will be in the streets before us. It is widely agreed by a lot of people that, particularly Kamto supporters, that the elections were stolen. We had people from Amnesty International that were not even part of Amnesty International as observers.
Yeah.
The people did not go to the street. The people who actually tried to go to the streets from MRC, some are still sitting in jail. And that is why you see people are asking these questions. What has changed? Because this same electorate that we can shower all these grace that, oh, they're going to go out, people are really mad, given the crisis in the north, Boko Haram, you have the situation in the Central African Republic, the borders, and then you have the two raging crises in the southern Cameroon. Do that same population have the stomach, or the government has found a way to silence that population through their various institutions, particularly traditional institutions that most are now coming out in their numbers with the motions of support?
As I sit here and I listen to you, right, I almost feel like, I've had this conversation so many times, like a deja vu with my own brother, where I'm arguing the same facts that are people willing to go out there? Are people willing to go and fight? But there's something that's certain. When you push anybody all the way to the wall, and there's nowhere else that person can go,
That's right.
the probability that the person is going to come back at you is very high.
Yes.
I do believe that things have gotten worse, and it's gotten to the point where I think the Cameroonian people have been pushed to the wall, and they have no other option but to come forward. You go on social media today, you see pictures of different areas of Cameroon with heap of dirt, right? We make joke about it. The only thing that has changed is that we call ourselves the continent. Okay? And,
Noisemakers.
and to me, the continent is not representing the continent because you have pictures all over the place of how disgusting some of our cities look. And I want to beg to differ that it wasn't like this. It wasn't this bad in 2018. I want to beg to differ that it's not better than it was in 2018 because I've been to Cameroon a few times after 2018, and I've been to Cameroon before 2018, and I can see that we're going towards the negative, the bad direction, right? So you talk about are people going to go out? Have they been pushed enough? I think Cameroon is one of the few countries in the world that goes out to protesters with live bullets. So that is one of the issues that have been of conversation, especially in my little group, right? Because nobody wants to die first. Nobody wants your child to go out there and be killed. But I think we're also getting to the point in Cameroon where our children are willing to go through very dangerous waters just because they want to exit the country. If they're willing to die in the water, I'm sure at some point they're willing to die on the ground to fight for Cameroon.
I think that is a very strong argument. Jonas, I tend to disagree a lot with when we sit in these pristine air-conditioned offices and environment here in the diaspora and seem to believe that because we say so, these kids are going to go to the streets. You would see the level of indifference of even the seriousness of the Cameroonian diaspora. All of this talk here that we have in these studios, if I ask Kenneth to say, can you mobilize people to go down to Washington, D.C. to protest even the TPS that has been taken away from Cameroonians, you would see how many people are going to go out in the streets. So it cannot always be the people on the ground. Meanwhile, there's the indifference here. The summer months are here now. You would see from alumni organization to cultural association, divisional organization, and you see the party that they are throwing. It is hard for you really to fathom the idea that these are people that are really, really mad that the situation in their country is so bad to the point where they cannot even take it any longer. And they are telling the people on the ground that do something when they themselves are not doing anything here in the diaspora. That is my conundrum, trying to figure out, are we really serious? Because we can all argue that, yes, people are going to get to a point where they're going to fight back. And I pointed to the two English-speaking regions got to the point where they say they're going to fight back. And that situation has been going for 9 years now. The leadership of that revolution is in jail. Even the indifference in those two regions to that leadership in jail is informative, that our people have not gotten to the point where they are ready to effect that change. And that is why I'm arguing that what has changed. Jonas.
Yeah, thank you very much for the question. It's a good question. I feel that about the diaspora, they are concerned even for elections back home. The diaspora, like any other group, sees first their own interest. So the diaspora would say, if it is this person to direct the country, what am I going to gain? That is when they will get engaged. So I would say that for candidate Akere, what he has for the diaspora is that he as soon as he wins, he has to put in place the dual nationality, that you can be a national of Cameroon and a national of any other country. Once a Cameroonian, always a Cameroonian. So there are many people who would have liked to do many things back at home, but because in Cameroon they don't accept dual nationality now, they become skeptical. That do we gain? They always send the bit that they can send to the families at home. When we look back at like 2023, we see that the Cameroonians the Cameroonians transferred about 400 billion. You see, people would have liked to do businesses at home or in Cameroon, but because that one nationality is not accepted, they become skeptical. So I think that people always look at their interest, and if they point out and they truly see that they have interest, then they will engage. That's what I have to say. Thank you.
Oh, so to really go back, I think that could be one of the strong points of the barrister, that he is willing to consider the issue of dual nationality for those in the diaspora. But that is, again, does not negate the indifference of the people here in the diaspora as far as getting involved. And even the political candidates, their level of engagement with the diaspora is close to zero. The incumbent, I don't think at any time has attempted to engage the diaspora. The aspiring candidates, even in the course of this, even if you cannot campaign in Cameroon now, have not been engaging the diaspora, except they have different forums that engages diaspora to get their own feedback on what can be done to collectively resolve not only the challenging situation in Cameroon, but the crisis in the two English-speaking regions. Kenneth, I think we're getting to wrapping up. We are almost out of time. Before you get in, please, I would like Hubert to comment on that as we get to wrapping up.
Okay.
Thank you, Tabinyang. I wanted to make sure that we understand, and this is what the challenge is again. Most of the political outfits that are in the country have cliques here in the diaspora through which they work. The CPDM, they have a strong presence here in the DMV area. The MRC people also have a strong support base here, and the people for Cabral Libri and the other political entities that is in the country. And this is the issue, because instead of having a cross let's say a national discussion platform through which we can discuss the issues of Cameroon, every political clique has their little base through which they work, and that is very challenging, because every little clique, like we say, have their own little priorities that they want to push forward, and so there's never a time where we can come with a national consensus on our way forward. I think that's a great challenge for them, and that's why you don't see them come out here as often as they should. But to Mr. Jonas's, Dr. Jonas's point, he's right. We've been sending a lot of monies back home, and if the government, whether it's the incoming government or the present government, if they win, the priority should always be given to these cash flows that we send back home, and ways should be made for that to ease the process a little bit more. Cameroonians and double nationality has been an issue that is ongoing. There is constant debate about it. I think there are a lot of people who are for. There are others against. There are other sectors of the country that are for, are against, and they have their own reasons. I think maybe at a certain point we should have that debate just to understand exactly why we are at this stalemate and what is the way forward. Thank you.
Thank you. But Kenneth, don't you think that we need a political candidate that is going to rise above the fray, in not just dealing with their own tribes in these little mushroom forums, to be able to rally the people, to bring collectively the weight of the diaspora to bear in putting pressure, because we would all acknowledge that the diaspora, with their connections, their exposure, their level of experience, their international networks, could bring a lot of pressure to bear on that government. Are we really in a situation where we don't have that candidate, that unifying candidate that is going to come out here and say, hey, this is the way we're going to go about the situation?
Well, for right now, we do not have the unifying candidate for the diaspora. Brother, I was watching something with this guy in Cameroon, Besala. I don't know if he's related to Besala, who had the 1972 championship in boxing, but his name is Valet. I think that's it, Valet Besala. Paul Biya has successfully divided and conquered Cameroonians. And quite frankly, when I did my own research for Paul Biya, what I realized is that there was when Amadou Ahidjo took over the presidency, there was a branch at the presidency that was in charge of the secret services. And they were called Sir Doc or Sir Sis Doc, something like that. So after Biya left, William Etekimboma at the Ministry of Education and went over the presidency when that guy committed suicide. The Bamileke man committed suicide over there. Paul Biya basically took over the intelligence services in Cameroon around 1968. So we had a Putin in Cameroon and we did not even know for the longest time. That is how this guy has successfully either hypnotized Cameroonians or divided people completely. And he is emerging even at his senility as if he is the only person. Anyway, look, brother, we do not have to wait for Cameroon to be in total disrepair before we start to pick up the pieces. And things are going to start back home. I remember when Senator Tabetando went to the Manu division and was talking their CPDM strange alphabetical melanges. The people in the village refused to sing the national anthem. It did not take any diaspora to do that. This was deep in the heart of Manu division. And when that happened, so a lot of us who were out here in the diaspora, we were shocked that, hey, deep in the village like this, people are refusing to sing the Cameroon national anthem. And that spurred into action the momentum that the Southern Cameroon's fight took. So what am I saying? I'm saying that there are various levels of commitment in the diaspora back home. But with the generation of things that are going on, we will definitely have some type of what I would refer to it as an inevitable interplay of various political factors that if these guys continue being very high-handed and crushing this they are going to get to a point where they will have to crush an insurrection. And you and I know very well that even what's that guy in not Ceausescu, Slobodan Milosevic, Slobodan Milosevic in the 90s slaughtered everybody, the Slavs and the people in Bosnia and Herzegovina. So where did he end up?
I think there must be a synergy between the people in the diaspora and the people on the ground, which at this time is missing. We can as much argue, like you quoted the situation in Manu. 8 years down the road, what is the outcome? Because the people on the ground feel that they do not have the requisite support from the people in the diaspora, that they are left at their own demise. They are beginning to say, you know what, maybe the devil is even better than the angel, we don't know. So we cannot, when we engage in these conversations, is to look at the deep-seated root causes of these issues. Is the diaspora actively involved in affecting change in that country in a way that you will sit back here comfortably and we address the people on the ground that, okay, because you demonstrated this level of resistance, it is enough. When that regime knows that the people in the diaspora are not going to come to your rescue, it has been proven in the southern Cameroons. We are at a very difficult situation right now. We can all argue that the situation is not so bad. The country is really, really in a very difficult situation. And when we're having these honest conversations, we should look at what is really going on. How do we mobilize the people here? Because if you're going to preach mobilization on the people on the ground, let's start that mobilization here in the diaspora. What is the present trajectory of here, only in the DMO, towards removing the president from the supreme magistrate of the country?
Can I have something to say, and I'm going to take it after that?
Well, brother, I just want to say that, look, I've lived in my village. If I need water to bathe and I go down the stream to carry it, and the water is not, I don't need it, or the stream stops flowing because, of no trees are there. See, I need water or I need light. No, I don't need anybody I brought to come and tell me that. Let's find a way to plant more trees or get more water, get this river flowing. All I'm saying is that the people at home do not necessarily, that's what I'm talking about, momentum. And we all know what troubles them. We send money back home and do different things, Look, you can even call us implicit accomplices to the BR regime. Because if you don't want the World Bank to be giving BR money, why are you sending money home? Because somehow we are also helping the regime, if we want to look at it that way. But it's just to say that the quagmire that is there, yes, we do indeed need some sort of a momentum where all of us are gathered together to, have this onslaught and do what we used to watch this Chinese movie, Dernier Combat, Last Fight, Chef Bang, whatever.
That is about your age.
Okay. So there needs to be a correlation with the diaspora and the people on the ground. See, one thing is for certain, Tabanyan. As long as we are here in Washington, D.C., and talking and doing whatever, even if we're sending what we're sending in Cameroon, if the people that are on the ground don't feel the pain, honestly, yes, we can help. We can send money like they said we've been sending. But when I say people are pushed to the wall, I'm talking about the people on the ground. Me and you in the diaspora, we don't get pushed to the wall. The most we can do is work and help the people back home. But when I said the people are going to have to come back forward, I'm referring to the people on the ground, because to Kenneth's point, the person that needs drinking water in Cameroon is not going to get the drinking water from me. Even if I want to give you the clean drinking water, I'm not going to be able to give you every day and when you need it most. If you have a wife who is pregnant and they cannot get the right medical care that they need, it doesn't matter what I do in the diaspora. The medical care needs to come from Cameroon unless you're in America. So what am I trying to say? Yes, the diaspora needs to help. However, our brothers and sisters and parents on the ground, they are the ones feeling the pain more than we are, right? So we go there once in a while and come back. However, I do agree that we're supposed to support them. How? That's another conversation. if we have to send the money like we're doing now to buy water and buy food, is that sustainable? What about those people that don't have people in the diaspora? What about them, right? Which is why we need the change. Which is why, you turn around and you say, okay, we need somebody that can move Cameroon forward and move Cameroon to the 21st century, or fit enough to be a country in the 21st century, which is where the bâtonnier comes in. However, I'm going to also touch on the fact that we talk about the candidates touring the diaspora and touring Cameroon. The bâtonnier has been one of the candidates that even in 2018 went to all those different areas in the country. I think he went to the north, he went to the south, he went almost everywhere. And even to the USA he came. I actually attended one of his gatherings in Texas. And I'm sure that he's going to do the same this year, because I think he's planning a US tour in June. And he's one of those people that will listen. If you have questions, if you have anything to share, he will listen. So I would just go back to say that I think it's a high time that as people, we stop, and I don't want to put this the wrong way. I think there's a narrative that is being spread on TV in Cameroon, and anybody that wants to listen, is that, unless the opposition all come together, they cannot win. And we are slowly spreading the narratives, helping the current party to spread that narrative. It's not true. It's not true. I think that we know how the elections are being stolen. And if we know how, and the people think that they've had enough, and their backs are on the wall, which I think it is now, they should come back and fight for their country. Every Cameroonian needs to fight for Cameroon, not just the Cameroonian in diaspora.
So you mean to say that if at the end of the electoral process, Biya wins and the people do not come out to protest the same way they did in 2018, you are saying that they are not really mad enough, that they are not yet in a situation where their backs are really pushed to the wall and they can fight back. Is that what you're saying? Because that's what happened in 2018.
So if you ask my honest opinion, I go to Cameroon a lot. I think Cameroonians have their backs on the wall. I honestly do. I don't remember ever seeing pictures of people posting piles of debt on the street in Cameroon, or garbage. Let's put it, let me call it what it is. I've never seen that before. And I'm 40 something years old. I started seeing that recently. That says something. I'll tell you something. Cameroonians are very proud people. They love their country. They're very patriotic. They love Cameroon because they want to walk outside with their heads up and say, I'm a Cameroonian. To see a Cameroonian post garbage on the streets of Yaoundé or Douala is something that I never thought I'd live to see, because that's basically saying that the state of the country is at ruin.
Maybe they are just monetizing it through TikTok and Facebook and the clicks. You can never rule out when it comes to this social media. People have a way of trying to monetize these things. But on that, I've been receiving some messages here. The argument, to wrap up, that the same level of effort that the bâtonnier put towards Glencore, which the corruption scandal, to try to bring the company and its executive individuals to order because of the massive corruption, has not been demonstrated towards the southern Cameroons. That with its international network and connections, the plight of the Southern Cameroon leaders has not been his top priority. This is from the text messages that I am having. Given that you have people from different countries that are now taking the case of Cameroon to international jurisdictions, that the bâtonnier, in his role and capacity, needs to do more. Does he need to do more?
So I think that we only like talking about, we like when people show us, again with the social media age, show us what you're doing before we know you're doing something. We want people to wave the flag and say, look at what I'm doing, for us to see that they're doing something. I can honestly say nobody knows how much he fights in the background for Southern Cameroonians, because I've had those conversations with him. I do believe that besides Glencore, the same passion he has when it comes to corruption, he has that exact same passion for the Cameroonian people. Because to be honest, I think I know the Batonier enough to say that if he doesn't run for the presidency, nothing will change in his life. If he doesn't become the president of Cameroon, nothing changes in his life because he's worked hard enough to guarantee that at 72 today he's okay, right? However, he's one of those people that believe that Cameroon deserves better. The people of Cameroon deserve better, and that's why he's running, and that's why he's fighting for the nation. But we cannot just sit and say that he needs to put the same effort with what he's doing with Glencore, because we see it on social media, we see it on TV, and we don't see what else he's done in the background. I mean, there are people that come online and say, "What have you been doing for 7 years?" I don't know anybody that works and fight as hard for Cameroon as the Batonier does. I'm still to meet that person.
Thank you, Mimi. Hubert, can we equally say that Bia can sit leisurely in a today and say there are a lot of things that I'm doing in the background that people don't know? Because if that is the argument, it's equally to say that Bia has been doing a lot and there are things that the president is doing and a lot of people don't know about it. Is that okay?
That's a fair comparison given the pronouncements of Dr. Mimi. And it's very clear that he's a passionate advocate for Barrister Mona, which is fine as well. But listen, Cameroon is bigger than the North Nozo issue. There are lots of other issues, lots of other demands on the leadership there that warrant examination. I know people have their own interests, and this is why I'm saying politics is transactional from the get-go. It's okay if he comes in as the candidate that's going to put out the fires in Northwest and Southwest, that's fine. And if he's working, he should make sure that what he has done is clearly demonstrated in his resume. You sell yourself to the electorate based on the interest that you want to serve. So if he has been doing something, I think this is the time for him to go ahead and make that known before it's too late. Again, fair is fair. He Akere Muna is part of the establishment, if you want to know, but he's not overt. In other words, he's not out there saying that. He has been one who has been offered ministerial positions in the Biya government, and he's declined for several reasons. His sister, of course, was. So he's part of the establishment, and I think this is why he cannot really clearly associate himself with one political party, because he just wants to be at the point where he can be at the leadership role and do what he wants to do there. When he created the Now movement, I thought that was a very great idea. And if he had stayed the ground, like you guys say, he's still there, let him continue to do it. Mimi just said that he doesn't need to be a president to feel fulfilled in his life. So let him continue with the Now and push through that. If he wins, if he doesn't win, it will still be a good service to the Republic of Cameroon. Thank you.
And thank you.
So I need to jump in real quick. Let me jump in real quick. So I think that we're mixing now. We're muddying the water. We're muddying the water because I know that's politics, but let's not muddy the water in saying that he's part of the Batonier. If he wanted to be a part of the government of the Cameroon right now, we both know, or we all know, that wouldn't have been a problem. But I think he's a man that has stand for transparency. He stand for good governance. He stand for a better Cameroon. And he's decided that he was going to keep himself as Mr. Clean. And that's something that nobody can argue with.
Thank you on that. We definitely would have loved to continue, but this conversation is going to continue maybe subsequently. I'm going to start with Jonas for your final thoughts, Hubert, Kenneth, and then we'll give the pride of place again to the only lady in the house. Jonas, your final thoughts. Jonas? All right, I think we lost Jonas. Hubert?
No, thank you, Tabenyang. It's always a pleasure to be on your platform. I want to thank my friend and brother, Kennedy, who is always a passionate on the historiography of our dear nation. Dr. Mimi has also been a force to reckon with here, and I'm really surprised and happy for his that Akere Muna has such passionate supporters here in our midst. What I want to say, and I've heard it said here several times, that there is um, a swirl of anger among the populations of Cameroon, and that if we don't manage that well, it could lead to social chaos or whatever have you. You know, civic uprising has its place in the development of a nation, and I think that the anger or frustrations or the back of the wall, back having their backs on the wall impression that we give is okay. I think it behooves us, the leadership, and those that have a little bit of leverage, political leverage, to canalize that anger, to direct that anger to a national reawakening, so to speak, so that each and everyone should understand what is their civic obligation to the country. And it's not just war or revolution or reforms, like we say, it's having a greater love for country. Most of the time, it's easy for us to point fingers and to find ways to get to power, which if given that power, we'll not even know how to manage it. At this present moment, it is clear the CPDM party they are the favored party. They have the structure to win, and my appeal is for the other parties to be civil about the process and make sure that they're respecting the rules of the game. And Cameroon is not an island. There are other parties of the world who are observing, and they should leverage those forces as well to make sure that the game is held in a fair and competitive manner. Thank you.
Thank you, Hubert. Even though you say Cameroon is not an island, that looks like a slide to the islands. There are people who still live in islands, bro. I
Well,
know there are people in Seychelles, a beautiful
I-
country.
yeah,
Jonas, your
Yes,
final
please.
thoughts.
Okay. Um, I think that what Akere stands for, he stands for the truth and he stands for the future of Cameroon. And to say that he abandoned even the leader of the revolution. Let us understand those that talk of a revolution in the two regions. Let's understand. Me, I came from Cameroon in 2021, and I had been kidnapped on 3 occasions, and they left the so-called enemy, and they turned against people of Northwest and Southwest. That's why they were abandoned. So going back to our political field, we see that for now, Akere is the best choice because what he stands for, which we have enumerated, he stands even the best position to take Cameroon forward in the next few years as in a transitional government. Because we have seen the limits of the CPDM. CPDM has shown us their limits because everything, there's no new thing that they can tell us that they will do again that we've not seen. They have not been able to eradicate corruption, which is endemic in Cameroon. They have not been able even to handle the cases of those that have been caught. The Glencoe case, for instance, was brought to CONAC, and CONAC did nothing about it. Cannot claim not to know because Barrister Akere was asking CONAC now to put pressure so that those who were involved in corruption from Cameroon, their names be given. CONAC has refused.
Thank you, Jonas. Kenneth?
Okay. For today's final word, Brado, today would be the last day during this program whereby we're talking about the potential Anglophone candidates we have. Last week was the Honorable Joshua O.C., chairman of SDF, and today we're talking about Barrister Akere Muna. The quagmire in Cameroon's political environment today has been created by none other than the incumbent President Paul Biya. Um, I have already started drawing up the inauguration of the President of the Republic of Cameroon for October 2025, and it's going to be an Anglophone. What we are asking and requesting from the MRC is to reciprocate with what Akere Muna did in 2018. The CPDM, as it stands, is doing everything possible for Kamto, who represents MRC, or even if he's going to, what's his name, from Douala, Nincho's party, to represent that party. It has been rumored in some quarters that Kamto represents the Bamileke bourgeoisie. But regardless, should CPDM try to play a political game on the political chessboard, it would be necessary that Maurice Kamto, unlike Adamun Damjoya, forget about his francophoneness, his elitist francophoneness, and checkmate Paul Biya by aligning with others, and we can have a Senegalese scenario. There's no problem. Thank you.
And, Mimi?
Thank you. It's been great being in the studio today, and I'm speaking on this subject. So I'll go back to say, let's all be very, very cognizant of the fact that the Anglophone problem or the crisis that we have in Cameroon is structural. And because it's a structural crisis, we need everybody, we need hands on board, we need a coalition to fix it. And the coalition that came together picked the Batonier as the person to head their ticket. It wasn't by mistake. It was because they know and they've seen what he has done in other African nations in terms of advising their presidents to get their nations to a better place. And they know that he can do that for his own country, Cameroon. And he wants to do that for his own country, Cameroon. So we've talked about so many things here today, but I think what's more important is we have to think about what these individuals as candidates will bring to the table for Cameroon. The Partenaire has 8 pillars. In the 8 pillars, he had mentioned, strengthening democracy and governance. He's mentioned dual nationality. He mentioned security and peace, social justice, just to list a few. Again, if you want to see the entire thing, you have to go to akeremuna.net. How did he come up with these things? How did he come up with this list? There's an APRM that, basically APRM is African Peer Review Mechanism that the AU offers. Most countries in Africa have done it, and Akere actually had to chair some of those meetings. Akere took upon himself, the Batonier, upon himself, he went ahead and did the APRM for Cameroon. And that was how he came up with the 8 pillars. And he believes that with the 8 pillars, what he's going to do is he's going to have a better outcome from Cameroon, where we're going to have good education system, better health for all, social justice and equality for everybody. And I think that's what Cameroon needs. If we're talking about candidates for the 2025 election, we don't have, like Mr. Kenneth said, Kamto running is almost, is very, very sketchy right now. I think that it's high time for, the people of MRC to understand that what is on the ground or what is happening in Cameroon right now, it's bigger than any individual. It takes all of us. It's going to take all of us. And when I mean all of us, I mean MRC, all the other opposition parties, Univer, UPC, to get Cameroon to where Cameroon needs to go. And I think Cameroon needs it now more than ever. So, thanks for having me. And I hope that we keep having these conversations. We keep praying and hoping for a better Cameroon because it's attainable. Thank you.
Thank you, Mimi, and thank you to all the panelists. Kenneth might not be the last English speaking candidates that we would have. You can see a litany of them that are also demonstrating that they are running their candidates. You have Barrister Emmanuel Ashu, that is in Douala. There is another younger brother from the BLM. I think they say he's the youngest, who is also a potential candidate. I am really taking much interest with the fact that the CPDM, as you both have beautifully articulated, is trying to alienate ROC. Does that mean that they are afraid of that candidacy, or is that a candidacy that poses the most strongest challenge against the incumbent? And to Jonas, I think it is a little bit unfair to the people who came out to the streets peacefully to protest and demonstrate against the injustices that have been committed on their communities for the past 60 years, to now say that they turn, instead of focusing on the enemy, which I don't really know the enemy, they focus on their own people. You can be in the same house with an enemy. It doesn't mean that that enemy must not be your own brother. A lot of the things that happen in our communities come from within. It is unfair to not look to the intransigence of the government to engage in a genuine dialogue to resolve that problem. Because once you create a vacuum in a situation of a crisis, criminal elements are going to fill that vacuum. And I think that is what is happening unfortunately, you were kidnapped and others have been kidnapped, ransom have been taken, but we cannot take the spotlight from the government's inability to resolve that crisis for the past 8 years and try to put the onus on the people who took up gain guns for self-defense. So I think that we should engage in this dialogue, and that is why it is imperative that the candidates who are vying to replace Mr. Biya should really provide a clear platform, a vision on how to address the root causes of these problems. You can imagine that people who go to Canada have a conversation with the government comes out and say, oh no, we're not involved. They go to Switzerland and they come out and say, oh no, we're not involved. The church from Cardinal Toomey has tried its best. So I think that this issue is a key issue within these election circles, and the political candidates, particularly those of the Northwest and Southwest extraction, most of them have not even visited their own villages. And you cannot tell people that you are willing to address a problem without you engaging in a dialogue in-house to sort out those problems. So I am hopeful, I'm very, very thankful that we all accept to engage in this journey and on a weekly basis every Saturday at 1 p.m. to try to learn our own knowledge and areas of expertise in looking for solutions to this crisis. We would definitely engage one-on-one whenever the candidates are here in the diaspora, to sit down with them to engage in these conversations. So thank you to all our viewers. We apologize for the technical issues that we had from the beginning. Hope to see you next week and have a wonderful Easter. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.